kick it off.
So hello everyone and welcome to our first AI Talks session, where we would be more than happy to share with you the latest AI news, trends, project that we are working on, demos, and everything from the AI world. The idea came as we already have a Cloud Talks channel where we are talking more about the Microsoft technologies. And since the beginning of this year, the AI world exploded, and actually we weren't able to cover anymore all the AI news in general Microsoft Cloud group, which we are doing Cloud Talks, and also there's a lot of AI developments and researches from other companies as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided to spin up this new channel.
Yep.
So yeah, today would be the first session. Appreciate your time. Happy to have all of you here.
Mm-hmm.
And we will start with quick introduction. So my name is Nikolai Markov. I'm an IT expert with more than 20 years of experience. My main focus usually is helping large organizations adopt the cloud and getting all the benefits of it. And recently, I also have been working on several AI integration projects, more around the Azure OpenAI. And my other focus is also the security services in general and the Microsoft Defender. And my colleague Nikolai Panchev.
Yeah. My name is Nikolai Panchev. I have a sort of a similar background as my colleague here. We come from a more of a technical background, dealing with Microsoft support and architecture, and we've been doing this for a while. And like we already mentioned, we already have another channel related to that topic specifically, but we decided to spin this up to be something separate. And we wanted to give you our view on how we perceive the new trends when it comes to AI. And this is sort of a disclaimer to let you know that we don't cover everything. We cover the things that we feel have potential or we treat as interesting, and we would like to share it with you. So this is how this came about.
And also keep in mind that the focus of this channel is more like the enterprise products.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we will include some techniques which can be used everywhere, but the idea of the channel is not to be like thousands of other channels which provide much more latest, much more accurate and detailed AI news. So our focus would be more from let's say enterprise perspective and how, let's say, we can integrate the AI services in the enterprises.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we will have also some, even in today's session, we'll touch some of the good techniques of how we can collaborate more effectively with AI and make sure that we get what we are looking for.
Yep. We like to spin this up to be a more an enterprise level deployment, just because we feel that that's where AI will really shine. Everybody by now probably has used ChatGPT and kind of the personal means to kind of use AI, but we want to go a step beyond, and we want to show you, or at least take you on the journey that we are on currently, to how we can integrate this into a more enterprise level service.
Okay, so we are really excited because of all of these recent changes and all the capabilities and possibilities that let's be honest, OpenAI brought to all of us. And actually, we we are trying to keep up with the speed of all the latest AI news, but it's really hard. Even on a weekly basis, there's a lot of new startups, new tools, new functionality of older tools. So it's I think it's probably the best time which person who love technology can live. I guess in the future, maybe even better, but I think it's just outstanding. The pace of innovation and the development of these technologies absolutely not comparable with anything before that. As I mentioned earlier, we've been 20 years in the industry, which doesn't mean that we are old, but also means that we've been part of multiple transformation initiatives, changes. Starting from 2000 and the internet boom, moving to the virtualization, then software defined, anything, then cloud transformation and the cloud adoption, then some trends going back from the cloud. So there is nothing to compare to this explosion which we are all in right now. And we really want to spend some time to make sure that people really understand the potential of this technology, really understand that actually it's already here. Already people use it extremely effectively to streamline their way of doing business, to streamline their capabilities. And we really want to encourage all of you to use it as soon as possible in order to be able to catch up with the productivity and the speed of the others. And maybe it's a good time to share one document which my colleague Nikolai Panchev would like to share a few words about it. But first, he has to give myself access to be able to share documents. Apologize again. This is our first time with the new setup.
So, sorry.
Yeah, there will be some technical challenges. Hopefully, it wouldn't be much.
Okay.
Okay. So.
Yep. So when we started, because technically AI has been around not since November of last year. It has been for a much longer period of time, and especially the people who had some sort of a role in tied to machine learning, data science, or AI, general AI, up to this point, probably have already recognized the different challenges that companies have with adopting AI, providing the real benefit of AI, or creating products that really use AI. As Microsoft specialists, we've seen the integration of AI coming into these products long before ChatGPT has started. But really, what has changed is the way the back end learning process has developed over the last, let's say, 5 years or so. And talking to AI specialists who have been part of this journey, they all refer me to this document, which is called, it's sort of a paper that was published back in December of 2017, and it's called "Attention is All You Need." And it's really, most people highlight it as the breakthrough of AI research, and really gave the technology a push. After it was pretty much implemented the way, what they discovered. And I encourage you to read this through. It's fairly technical, so you may need to kind of, like the document said, attention is all you need. It has a sort of a double or triple meaning based on it, but go and read it when you have the time. What it really provides is the breakthrough, and by using the transformer, with the so-called transformer, and in simple terms is allowing AI to build and build on top of its skills and its learning process. And I'm oversimplifying it, obviously, but like I said, it's good if you can sit down and read it for yourself, just to get a sense of what it is exactly. But this is really where it all started. Like I said, many people have referred to this document as the really the ignition process, and that's why we wanted to call our first session Ignite. I remember Qual Talks, we already also called it Ignite based on the Microsoft Ignite conference, but really the ignition started here, more or less.
And just quick note from my side as well. We'll try to simplify as much as possible the mathematics behind all of these, because usually you get pretty quickly in serious, let's say, trouble. But as I said, we also plan to have a really technical focus session, and you'll be let it know in front of that, where this session will not be suitable for people with, without
prior knowledge.
And yeah.
And we also want to invite other people who are more knowledgeable than us in this material, so they can present and show how things could be accomplished. But right now we want to keep it high level, just because it's we want to ease into the kind of the material and really into the AI topic.
Yeah, and of course, to be able to onboard more people and get all of you to the speed.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure about your friends, but we've been talking with a lot of people, a lot of clients, and the majority of people are not very excited. So there were some studies of how much people have been heard at all about ChatGPT, and the percentage was around 46 in the United States. And from this 46, if I'm not mistaken, it was only 16% of people tried at all. And based on what I've heard from people, even in the IT field, they just try it and they see it's cool, play with it, but actually does not give it a chance. We'll talk more about this later in this event about how to efficiently use it. But you may feel, and I can ensure that you're maybe part of the 1 to 3% of the people at all who are trying to gain more knowledge in this field. So I think all of you are in pretty good position.
Yeah, generally AI has a negative connotation. When you hear the word. It's not, a lot of people just take it as something that would, and I'm not sure if it's based on how this was perceived in the news, how people are afraid they're going to lose their jobs, and
I guess combination.
Yeah, it's or just the unknown that would scare off some folks. But I think it's myself and Nikki, we try to take everything as an opportunity, and at least figure out, how I can use this. Is there something there that can be of benefit when it comes to technology? It's not always, in a negative sense. And that's why we started. And believe me, we also had doubts initially. I mean, even in the first version, when ChatGPT was first published, because we can agree that ChatGPT really kind of sparked this whole conversation because it really showed the progress of AI up to this point. And when we started using it initially, we saw many different issues. Just the way it works, some of the results that it provides, and so on. But maybe when ChatGPT 4 was published as a model, and we didn't expect this to show up so quickly, then we actually saw the real benefit. As a side note, we encourage everyone who wants to try it out, pay for at least for a month for the Plus service to give you a sense of what this really is, because there is a huge difference between 3.5 and 4.
Absolutely. And just to add to this, I would say natural diffusion of new technologies. As I said, we've been for a while in the IT industry, so we saw the same thing. For example, with virtualization, I remember where people said that it's ridiculous to have virtual machines which took like half of your compute resources, and now you know what is the situation in the cloud, where you have actually external silicons maintaining everything, and you get actually 99 maybe point something % of the compute. It was the similar case with the cloud technologies, where people was argues how it's not possible to fine-tune my virtual machines to whatever I want, and I have to use Qflavor. So the situation is pretty similar. People usually don't like to change the way of how they are working, but it's I think the main driver for us, and I'm happy to have you all here. I guess it's the same driver, but we really love technologies, and we really love how they develop so quickly. So maybe we can spend a few words about how this will impact us on the in terms of our future job and in general the way we are working. As Niky Panchev mentioned, one of the drivers is that actually people are afraid of how and the possibilities that this technology will take their world. And I would say that they should be afraid, because actually if they do not do anything, they will become pretty quickly obsolete, and will have because they are not aware about the goals of the large enterprises, and we'll discuss a bit later, but they really want to bring this technology as soon as possible in order to optimize their work. So if you want to be productive and to stay current, the easiest way is, of course, to learn, to continuously learn. You know, this lifelong learning slogan. It's not a slogan, I guess it's a way of living. And definitely, if you like what you're doing, it will help a lot. So that's for sure. But just to mention, there are multiple courses that you can have a look at them. So for example, the AI 900, it's pretty solid. It's even fundamental course, but will bring you will bring a lot of value and a lot of good base ground understanding of all the term, how the technologies is working. Also, there's great courses in Coursera by Andrew Ng. Some people call him the father.
And by the way, we can post some of these as links.
This will be in the description in the videos.
Yeah.
So he provided recently some outstanding courses about how you can use the AI. He get people from OpenAI, which are also part of the courses. He get a course for which is exactly for developers, how they can improve their productivity using AI. And this is completely free. Also, you have, apart from all the copilots, which Microsoft recently announced on the Microsoft Build sessions,
And Ignite.
And Ignite, there's a lot of third-party tools which you can have a look. It's really important here because, as we mentioned, we've seen enormous amount of information on weekly basis, which is very hard to catch everything, is to try to build this fundamentals as quickly as possible. And start thinking where you would like to put your attention. It's like to start thinking to build some profile in the AI part, because we are sure that there will be a new jobs pretty soon. Actually, there's already jobs, and the most popular one is prompt engineering, I would say, because actually
that's the immediate need.
This is the immediate need, and I would say this is one of the most important thing at the moment, and one of the main reasons why people adopted it fast, but not with expected pace, especially if you're aware what you can do with appropriate prompts. So yeah, really, our suggestion would be try to get up to the speed with learning some fundamentals. It's not important to have mathematic background. It's really more important to understand what can be done with AI technologies and what is possible, what not, how it could be integrated in the business. Think about some use cases. Of course, it really depends on what kind of positions you are. But as I said, we try this, especially the first session would be focused more on general public and not going in any serious, let's say, technical details. But yeah,
I think this will be very similar to the previous waves of kind of change in technology, where we used to be system admins, then we became cloud architects, then
DevOps engineers, platform engineers, SRE engineers, SRE
resilience,
SRP.
And the same goes for AI. Every person that's doing a job now will probably have a role somewhere in the AI space, whether it's implementation, development, maintaining, support. It will just transition. That's why we feel that people won't technically be losing their jobs. That they'll be transitioning to different roles and different needs. And that's why it's important now, since we are still at the dawn of the whole thing, to figure out where you want to place yourselves, what do you want to do to make sure that you can, you will have the right skill set going forward, because ultimately this will change a lot of the current jobs. Like we see how it influences development. If you are a developer, definitely you need to, think about, how can I, you need to start thinking, how can I implement this as part of the process, let alone thinking how I fit in the AI space. And like I said, we are giving our perspective as an enterprise kind of level professionals. And that's why we have this view on AI. Your view may be different, but that's why we're giving our perspective for it.
Yeah, and before moving to what enterprises think about AI at the moment, last but not least, you 100% lose your job if you're not develop yourself.
But that was valid before AI.
That was valid before AI. It was the same situation with all the transitions. Of course, there are some companies which still not get, I don't know, maybe they're still using some physical servers. Of course, there's use case to use physical servers, but let's say in the majority of use cases, that would be the outcome. And some people which are doing physical jobs feel safe at the moment, because right now it's pretty expensive to have how to say
AI being part of a physical.
Yeah, androids, robots, but I am sure all of you saw what was the latest updates on the latest Tesla shareholder meetings with Tesla bots. We all know how the Boston Dynamics are moving forward. You remember this video of ChatGPT building, and but the thing is that people didn't notice the other video from Boston Dynamics when actually not ChatGPT, but their robots actually it's bringing wood and materials pretty good in some construction field. So maybe they will have like 5 to 6 years, but unfortunately, once the robots and my expectation that this will happen till 2030, we will be able to have this kind of real physical assistance with extremely good reasoning capabilities at our home for a price of, let's say, brand new Renault or something like this.
But if you're in digital media, if you're a content creator, AI is probably affecting you right now.
It's affecting you, but if you use it, you can be a lot more productive. There were some people complaining, crying in the internet, trying to sue the AI companies like Stable Diffusion, Midjourney, and the others. But the truth is that there's also others which actually been able to do the, let's say, for time more productive and more work on this. Okay, so let's switch to the enterprises. What is the current situation there?
So enterprises have been relatively, how should I say, silent, at least in front of the media since the whole explosion started with ChatGPT. But I can tell you for a fact that every Fortune 500 company right now is putting all of their money and efforts to creating models to suit their needs, or using existing models, or implementing some sort of an AI process, mainly around probably 95% of the use cases are, I have enterprise level data. I want to use it with a model, ChatGPT or any, something of that sort. And or use ChatGPT as a hosted service in my tenant somewhere. This is what everybody's trying to complete, and Microsoft cannot even. And we're kind of focusing more of our conversation around Microsoft just because we're closer to that space, but that doesn't mean that other companies in that field are not also working, like Google and Amazon and others.
And also because they're more close to the enterprises as well, especially at the moment.
So they're trying to roll out these services as quickly as possible. There are so many startups that have basically started in the last 6 months, and they're trying to take up a particular space and create different mini models or fine-tune models directly for the needs of a customer and sell this out as a service. This is what really has been happening. Microsoft cannot cope with the creation of data centers. They have all of the money in the world, but they don't have enough resources to actually create data centers at the pace of kind of the demand that's currently on the market. And for compute and for AI specialists, for architects, it's just insane how it is.
And keep in mind that they announced in Microsoft Build just, I think, 2 weeks ago that they're building new data center each 3 days. So their plan is to have 120 data centers for 1 year. So and these data centers are more focused on AI. They have a lot of nodes with a huge amount of NVIDIA Grasshopper cards, which we'll discuss a bit later as well. But even with this, I would say, mass production of data centers, they can cope with the demand. And this reminds me early times when we tried to onboard on a paid version of GPT-4, where it wasn't possible. You want to pay.
Even if you want to pay, you cannot.
They said that the demand is too high. So you can pretty quickly realized what happened behind the scene and how fast these things are moving. And maybe there were some period of time where enterprises are trying to, understand the situation they are. They weren't sure shall they jump on the, on this, I would say, wide speed train, or some of them have this fear of miss out thing. FOMO, yeah, but yeah, the demand is ridiculous, and even that we've been together with Niky Panchev, we've been lucky to have our subscription being approved from one of the very earliest to have Azure OpenAI and being able to test and play with it even before starting implementing it for our clients. But the demand is huge, and you have to be sure that enterprises are really looking for ways to implement that. Yeah. 2 days ago, I think I saw a job. There were some job where people have been looking for head of AI, and the description was, we're looking for person to help us understand how we can implement AI in our business and how our business can benefit of it.
Yeah.
Period.
A lot of companies didn't have an AI division. They didn't, I mean, they probably had machine learning specialists for one reason or another, but they didn't have special kind of teams created for this. And now almost every company is trying to come up with an AI COE that would contain different specialists, people who would come with various backgrounds to start rolling this as soon as possible, because it's such a competitive advantage that you cannot, you don't have the luxury to neglect it if you're a big company right now. So what we're seeing, again, it's kind of fundamental. It's not something that you see every day. And you really have to be part of the journey, otherwise you may miss out.
Yep. And yeah, so this race, of course, is not only for enterprises, but also for the consumer enterprises, but it's also from the companies which produce these products. So we know that Microsoft, even that Google actually was the first one, and
yeah, the document that I
5 years ago was made by Google.
Yeah, the attentional is all you need. When you open up the document, you will see that
Google.
5 of the 7 people are actually part of the Google Mind team, which was kind of the leader in the AI space, or research at least, before OpenAI kind of took over.
Yeah, and we're not going in details, but you can have a look at the whole story. There were some nice interview by Elon Musk about the situation in the past, and actually that Google had
and the OpenAI engineer, chief engineer as well.
Yeah, they had all the top AI specialists for what I mean, pretty much everyone. Yeah, several years ago. However, the situation changed pretty quickly with this move of OpenAI and let's say the big Microsoft investment. So Microsoft was really able to extremely quickly implement OpenAI capabilities in the majority of their products. And the other companies like Google, I'm not sure AWS is trying as well, of course, but I would say that currently the main competitors are Microsoft and Google. Actually, really trying to get up to the speed with their LLMs like actually Bart. Speaking for that, of course, the biggest benefiter of that is the people which produce the, let's say, the minerals and gas for people who've been playing StarCraft, which is currently NVIDIA. So you may saw what happened with their stocks after showing the results, the latest results for
Q2
for their performance. So after the crypto boom in the past, where also they had a huge benefits. Right now, we see in the same situation with AI. So right now, they're the absolute market leader in providing graphical chips. I think they're having like 80% of the market with their Grasshopper. And actually, I think these cards are their cards are H100, which I think has like 120 gigabytes of memory as maximum, and unfortunately cost around at the moment $40K US. So it's really not possible at the moment to run and even the very small
models at home.
Even
if you have $40,000.
That's the thing, that even if you have it, this was some eBay acquisition for people in the hardware industry. If you remember in the past, when there's some new CPU, we've been bidding for engineering samples from some usually the countries in APAC regions. So NVIDIA and the biggest benefit of using NVIDIA's GPUs is not only the hardware, of course, it's their framework CUDA, which is widely adopted, and I don't think there's any competency competition with that. So we've shown some great demonstrations, I think, months ago in one of their main event by their CEO, where we have this video. It was actually another company which created that, I think is Convey, but of course this was entirely based on NVIDIA CUDA and NVIDIA chips, where you had a demo of a game where actually you've been able to talking with NPCs in real time, real time. And recently there were some other companies which introduced the ability to create NPCs. So even my 13-year-old son is really interested to start, and I think it's really close to start developing its own games at the moment, and own NPCs with the ability to interact freely.
I think also this shows how history repeats itself. If you look at how the smartphone came about and who are the first beneficiaries from the smartphone, it was initially the hardware companies who were providing the chips, because there was shortage. People wanted to buy a smartphone quickly, and they couldn't cope with creating so many chips. So NVIDIA right now has gained a lot. I think this will calm down at some point when this obviously opens up the market for others that they want to get in. So AMD and probably other companies will start moving and selling their own chips, which will kind of distribute the market a bit, because right now it's really unfair. I mean, NVIDIA is basically holding everything. And even then, paying $40,000 for each card is nothing to Microsoft with the cash that they have.
That's true, but it's always the good competition brings the prices down, which make the technologies more affordable. Actually, I think one of the latest updates from OpenAI was lowering the price and of course introducing 16K capabilities for GPT 3.5, but it was really for example, AMD recently announced that they get up to this game as well with I think it is called MI 300 which will have even 192 gigabytes of memory. So it will be able to host larger modules. Of course, it will have also the technology to stack multiple cards. I think it would be able to stack like 6 cards from these. So it would be able to host the largest, even the largest models. However, it's important. This is really important because actually this will speed up the development of from hardware perspective, will lower the prices and will allow more and more company to be able to have this compute power on-prem and use it for developing their really own models, which are extremely tied to their actual needs, which currently is actually only for the large company. Of course, our expectation is also the large cloud providers like Microsoft, Google, AWS to start develop, and Facebook, of course. They're already start. I'm sure they already have some development for their own chips, which is actually the case for the compute power. And as I mentioned earlier, the way how right now they're running the compute nodes and offload all the, let's say, not fundamental things like, motherboards, CPU and memory, but for example, the network management, security part, storage operations, etc. Is everything in the newest models is on separate silicons developed by the company or acquired by some other organizations. So yeah, AMD will start shipping this to some customers which have closer relationship for, I guess, some testing, etc. Later this year. And hopefully this product would be widely available at the beginning of next year.
Maybe to close out the whole hardware topic, we'll post a link in. I have to remember. We'll post a link to a session over at Build. Presented by Mark Rusinovic, who is the CTO of Azure, about what they have, how they run AI on the back end, because it's really impressive. If you've been a person that's been involved in infrastructure and you're kind of interested in this sort of thing, we'll give you a glance how they are able to really utilize all the hardware that's available in front of them. And provide this back to all the customers. So it's they completely redesigned and rethought how resources of that nature, like I wouldn't call them GPUs essentially because they are purposely built products specifically for this, but GPU is probably the closest thing that you can compare them to.
Video cards.
Yeah. They show how this works on the back end, how they are able to distribute the load. So it's really impressive. And keep in mind, they've done this in a very short time span because I don't think they even thought that this will have such an impact on everyone and the demand will be so great. For 10 billion, I think they really struck gold this time.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll have separate session where we'll compare in much more details the different, let's say, the most popular LLMs at the moment and products from the major companies in that field. But the most popular one, it's OpenAI models and Google models at the moment. As Nicky Panchev mentioned at the beginning, there's huge difference between GPT 3.5 and GPT-4. However, you may notice in the price list, we're talking about use it through the API only right now. You may see that there's different models which have these different pros and cons. So when we are saying that GPT-4 is much more capable, it's much more capable in terms of reasoning. However, is much slower. So and much more expensive. Extremely more expensive compared to the other models. So it's really important to understand to know for what you're going to use these models and to pick them up carefully. In general, for Google right now, their product BART facing a lot of challenges in terms of regulation. So you may be very surprised, but it's still not available in countries like Bulgaria. And I checked it, I think last week, it wasn't available for Switzerland, Sweden, which is really strange because it's available, I think, for 180 countries at the moment. However, partially, maybe the reason for that is some illegal stuff from the EU standards, which they have to become compliant. So this is really slow down a bit the availability to use it. However, they also recently introduced the ability to have pictures and to create pictures within the chat, which is not available at the moment at OpenAI products. So and also, unfortunately, you can't use BART via APIs, which I would say is really limiting the use cases for which you can use it. It's more like just to try it, and that's all. But you can't use it for enterprise purposes. Maybe if you have some direct connection with Google that you can have, or your Google partner, of course you may have access and to develop this, but it's not available for mass production.
And we track the whole history behind this because we saw how they went into panic mode once ChatGPT was out, and since really the first to come out has a bigger advantage just from a market perspective. They needed to push something out. They had a failed launch initially. The service didn't work, so they took a few months. Then they came back, and still BART is not kind of polished like ChatGPT is. It does provide different functionality that ChatGPT doesn't have yet. Like initially, ChatGPT was able to generate images as well in the first few days, I think, but Microsoft decided to cut this functionality off. And as we already said, Microsoft is struggling to provide ChatGPT just because the lack of resources that they have. They need to cope with the enterprise demand and versus kind of the demand from people using ChatGPT, and it's so much. There's not enough resources, even in the cloud. It's still scalable.
And not enough skilled people to do that. We recently have conversation with guys from Microsoft, and they were, as Nikki mentioned, triple booked.
They're not able to even service their biggest clients just because of the lack of time. And Microsoft doesn't have, they're not quick enough to reskill people on this to provide this consultancy.
However, there are two important things that we would like to mention here. The first one is that when we completely understand that Google is trying to catch up, but we also believe that everything is possible. And I can give you an example of what happened with the social networks in the past. Actually, the biggest network is not the first, not the second, not the third one. And actually, Facebook, I think it was 8 or 9 one in this race. And we know that the others, actually, I'm not sure that Yahoo and all of these MySpace,
they already done that.
They do not exist. So we still believe that Google have a huge potential. One really important thing here as well. Right now, the focus is more on LLMs, but comparing to how we as a people gather our understanding of the world around us, most probably, for example, development like FSD, Tesla, would bring additional big jump and streamlined on even very fast-paced developed technologies. Because as you can imagine, we as people understand most and absorb most information by our eyes. So imagine what will happen when these models being able to start gathering information by, of course, properly through
more sensors, yeah.
More sensors and recognize what happens. So we also expect that companies like Tesla will have, I would say, like explosion time at some point. Also, there's a lot of open source models, which, as we said, unfortunately, we can't run at home, but we can use, and we can run it on our own cloud infrastructure. So recently there were very interesting announcement of Orca model, which was pretty small model. I think it was like 13 billion parameters, which, by the way, is I think 1 or 2% of GPT-4 parameters. And actually, you can run this on. You need just 90 gigabytes of memory. Unfortunately, not RAM, but GPU memory. However, it's really interesting that actually this was developed first. It's really interesting that this was developed by Microsoft. Also, it's very interesting that this was trained via GPT-4. So, and the result is really amazing, especially on it provides results very similar to 3.5, and sometimes, and the majority of times even better, but sometimes very close to GPT-4. So this shows us
with the fraction of the size.
With the fraction of the size, absolutely. So this shows us two important things. The first one is that there were some idea of we'll touch a regulation point in the past where people will there were some proposition by some autumn. So I guess this is not, we will not be very effective about the size of the training data for the models, and actually the size of the models. So we see that actually the size matters, but not really in the way that we are looking for. And the other thing is that you can do a lot of things with a small amount of data. So very optimistic in that field. As I said, we will 100% have deep dive session of comparing the best models available right now. And actually, we'll show you a demo a little bit later of some very nice tool which you can use to compare different models in real time. So we said about the Lego stuff. Maybe we can touch it for quick.
Yeah, so one of the main challenges is kind of the legal perspective of using AI on an enterprise level, just because it's a difference. There's a clear difference between, asking ChatGPT, help me write this song or this resume or something.
And even there, you have some challenges.
Yeah, and it's completely different when you need to implement it as part of a process or something within the enterprise. So that's why most companies are now putting policies in place. If you work in a bigger company, you probably received an email of some sort, like saying you're not allowed to use ChatGPT, or if you're using ChatGPT, make sure you don't put any real data into it. Use it for your own personal benefit, and or even going out and directly blocking the site. We've seen that as well. So it will not be available from corporate machines. But depending on the approach, the issue is still the same, which is how do we regulate this? And there's some laws that are being expedited across the EU. The States is also reviewing their stance on AI in general. They've called out the OpenAI CEO to a hearing in the States. In the EU, some countries decided to block temporarily the access to ChatGPT as well.
In Italy.
So it really some people are panicking. You can see there's no unified approach to this just because it's so rapidly developing, and some people just don't have an answer to how to deal with it. It's just the way it is. We already touched on how people may refuse to use AI just because of their sentiments or personal beliefs and things like that. But at the end of the day, our belief is that the challenges will be ironed out just because of the demand itself. I think the market is so huge that all of these obstacles will be removed. Money is king usually,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
this will get pushed forward one way or another. Now, how it will play out, I think nobody knows, just because we don't even know 5 years from now how things were going to look like.
Yeah. And it's important to mention here that the companies which has, let's say, the strategy how to build this quickly, how to adopt and providing these services to their own employees.
Mhm.
It's critical, and even right now you can do it by just make sure that all of the or people which need to use it, it's important to have the paid version and have some very basic configuration where the data is not stored, it's cleared. This is pretty simple stuff. And if we want to go further, we can, of course, leverage to Azure OpenAI services, where actually all the data it's contained. It's in your own environment. It is not shared, and this is really important because in nowadays, especially from the cloud technologies, we already know that right now the boundary is identity. So people always will be able to find a way to use it. I can tell you multiple options, even with company laptops, which is totally blocked. The easiest way is just to take a picture of the text and have some of the thousands of free image recognition translation to text services that we're going to use. So the smart companies will try to incorporate and integrate this as soon as possible, because otherwise actually they will force people to leave. Actually the effect would be the opposite. People will just start using services inappropriately. They will not have the knowledge. And of course, if you become even, don't want to offend anyone, but let's say less smart and block these services, actually your competitors may gain significant advantage over you, because in nowadays I really love this slogan, but it's the fast that eat the slow and not the big that eat the small. So a lot of challenges from regulation, alignment. You can have a look of some of the materials. So there's a guy called Eliezer Yudkowsky. He's a big fan of AI, but his focus is mostly to provide technical perspective, critical thinking of the dangers of this really fast develop AI, and trying to build some guardrails.
There will be a whole new market for AI governance.
Yeah. Actually, speaking for that, yesterday, company called YLabs ran their LAN kit, which actually it's providing. It's a tool which helps with the observability and safety standards for any long language model. So you will have the ability to extracting 50+ metrics, and actually you will understand pretty quickly what happened in your LLM if someone trying to jailbreak it or poison it, and even because we've seen studies where people are not aware what happened and why it's happened, which is, of course, bring some concerns.
Yeah, exploitation of LLMs.
Yeah.
There's a whole new market for securing LLMs.
Yeah.
So, like I said initially, there will a whole new thing is opening up where, you know, the kind of the previous principles will still stand. So you will have people who help you govern AI, others to secure it. Probably there will be bad actors hacking your LLMs.
Exactly.
Trying to extort data from export data and extort you afterwards. So things are just repeating, but in a different twist from what we had previously, and much faster, much faster.
That's what I thought to say, with much faster pace. And also, so this is one of the reasons why also Microsoft is they announced on recent build event responsible AI and all the tools and features that you can use in order to make sure that you have your LLMs secured, to make sure that your LLMs provide legally compliant information, and being able to strictly obey the law and not helping bad actors with bad intentions. Of course, this is very hard, but as I said, there's a lot of, as we said, there's a lot of tools coming on that. Even I think at the beginning of this week, EU plans to force Google and Microsoft, their search engines, to trying to label AI content, like the images, videos, and etc. So really,
and this is important because the people who are not involved, I've asked this question to people who are more into the industry and really have an insight that I don't have currently. And I've asked them, you know, the kind of the philosophical question, you know, where do we get from here? You know, where the things would end up? And some of them responded with, there will be two sets of people. One will be the people who are aware what AI is, how it can help you, what it can do, just the overall capabilities. Maybe they will be involved directly into the whole process, like what we're trying to do with Nikki. And there will be another set of people who are completely oblivious to what's going on, you know, generally from what their stance, maybe they're not involved in the with new technologies at all. They're refusing to be involved, you know, and they will be completely controlled by AI without even realizing. I mean, computer-generated images, they will be kind of indistinguishable from real images. Videos will probably become something that you can generate. And, you know, that's why some of the concerns comes with AI, because theoretically you can, at some point, you will be able to use AI to control people on a grander scale, something that was very hard up to this point. That's why people, Sam, who is the CEO of OpenAI, said that there's a real concern that even the voting process can be controlled just because you have an influence on people on a grander scale.
And we already saw that. Actually, last week there were some images of Donald Trump, which was AI manipulated, doing some stuff with Fauci. Very popular guy. And
that's why one of the ideas with this, with what we're trying to do, is kind of raise the awareness, maybe to some extent. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe we can just move on to something more practical, I guess.
Sure. The last thing that I want to mention in that topic, if you really want to understand more about the dangers of AI, the real situation, we highly encourage you to have a look at the Lex Fridman interview with Eliezer Yudkowsky, and you understand more about inner alignment, outer alignment between the AI models. And actually, they're playing extremely interesting use case where the AI, where it's trying to escape from the box. So it's really, really interesting. You have to be aware that the guy is a bit more biased, but it's definitely.
Aren't we all?
Yep. Absolutely. So yeah. The legal topic is extremely huge. As Nicky Panchev mentioned, it's on multiple levels. So it's not only in the enterprise, the organization with the image content, so music, songs, in every direction. They're really struggling how to handle all of this. But yeah. So at the beginning, we discussed why people refuse to use it, and what we believe one of the main reasons is because, first of all, they're using the free version, which does not have the same amount of reasoning, the same ability to reason as the GPT-4, and also because they do not give it a chance. So they're asking some questions, they get some stupid answer, or let's say not the best answer, and they said that, oh, this is very stupid. And that's it, period, bye. So even the statistic is not very right because, you know, we have that some small percentage that they use it, but they may use it just once. So that's why it's really important to pay attention of how we can use it well. And as we mentioned in the beginning, there's a new job which is already here, I would say. And actually, I would not even say it's new because a lot of people most probably have been using these methods of do appropriate prompts of the LLMs in order to get the desired results. So I'll share my screen. There were some documents recently. I think there were two, but we'll focus on the first one. Which was about one method called tree of thoughts. So it turns down that actually having appropriate way of prompting the LLMs can bring us, I think it was like 700% better results. So it's really, really, really important how we'll construct our prompts, how we're going to execute them. Just for a quick example, I had a situation where I've been developed my prompt for an hour and a half continuously. And this is with GPT-4, so you can imagine it's not like 32K tokens. So in this study, as you see, a lot of people from Google, of course, and it's very, very recent. It's from 17 May. They compared 4 different methods of prompting the LLMs. They compared this by doing 3 different exercises. I think it was some text generation and some also calculation game. I'll not go in much technical details, but you can search in YouTube Tree of Thoughts, and you'll have extremely better explanation than mine. But so of course, I will not going in that direction. But in general, so we have the first one. So input output. We're asking something, we get an answer, and even that this is the easiest, it's actually the least efficient. Of course, it can work for some simple stuff. For example, if you'd like to reformat something or check something, evaluate something, that's not too bad. But in general, it doesn't. It will not help us with doing more complex stuff. The other one is chain of thoughts. So this prompt method, it's allow us. It start becoming a little bit closer to how we're doing stuff. So it's like when we do this step by step, actually we can put some thoughts on each output. So for example, if the model provide us output, we can say, okay, let's refine this. The third one is self-consistency chain of thought, which is evaluated in this document, which is pretty similar to the second one. However, there's multiple chain of thoughts evaluated, and at the end, there's actually the model evaluate each of these and score, provide some kind of score. The problem here is pretty similar, because if the models go to in the wrong direction in any of these, there's no chance to go back. And the breakthrough, and actually the most promising way of prompting, is called tree of thoughts. It's actually the way where we have first step where we can clearly break down our prompt. So we put what is our goal, we put some context, etc. We ask the model to evaluate some thoughts, ideas / possible solutions. On the third step, we ask the model to provide some kind of evaluate each of these and provide, let's say, some kind of percentage which one would be better. And it's important to notice based on specific criteria. It's great that you see a lot of reasoning behind this. So even that you're not at the end choose the output of this, but the reasoning is gold on this. And then pick up one or multiple of these. However, do some kind of iteration of this stuff and evaluate multiple times. Let's say the winning solution. So for example, if you see on this picture, if we have here the winning solution, then we ask the model after the evaluation. So we drop the others. However, we ask it to evaluate together with the winning solution to generate another solutions, possible solutions. It could be 3, 5, 10, whatever. And then do evaluation again. So this provides the ability to the model to think much closer to the as people are thinking. So if we can see this picture, is actually it allows us to go back, but bringing the solutions later and do evaluation. And by the way, LLMs are extremely good in evaluation. So providing, let's say, chances of success criteria or something are much bigger. There were a recent study showing that, for example, GPT-4 generated pitches are 3 times more successful than people's one. Just saying. So let's say you can use these, of course, if you have, if you can incorporate even the appropriate prompting, I can ensure that you have extremely good results. There's some repos where you can use these, which is ready to be used. So you can pretty easily run it on your computer, and you don't have to do a lot of typing and going back and forward, do iteration. So you can even run in this as a Azure Web App and provide all the reasoning. And in some of the later sessions, we will go even in details where we can compare different, let's say, agents which are using different prompt techniques and see how this goes.
Yeah. A very profound document as well. So
yeah, it will be part of the descriptions as well. So I will do also before the Azure OpenAI demo, which we'll do at the end. There is one very nice tool which you can have a look at it, where you actually can. We really want to share it with you, but you can actually buy credits. And then you can, let's say, use these credits to, first of all, play with the different LLMs available at the moment. And also, which is really nice, to compare the different LLM models in real time, as we'll got what we're going to do here. So the good thing is that we have even some, we can fine tune our answers. Yeah, it's really nice for comparing the newly announced models. For example, this Cloudy was the first model which supports 100K tokens, which of course it doesn't have the, as we will see in this example, it doesn't have the reasoning as GPT-4. It's about 100K tokens, which is, I don't know, maybe how much. It's probably more than 100 pages of documentation. Okay, so yeah, and for example, you're putting some money here, and this money actually are used for the API calls to the different models. So let's see how this will go. But as we see here, the quality, which is based, I think, on GPT 3.5, or I mean, it's much faster. It's much faster. So the models which has less reasoning are much faster. But as we see here, it has, if we go in details, GPT-4 will provide much meaningful information and with much better reasoning. So I highly encourage you to play with that. As we mentioned, you have a playground where you can fine tune it. It's pretty similar to the Azure OpenAI playground. However, here you can compare different models and can gather additional information from this. As you see here in this graphic, you can see the completion response time, and yeah, you may see other metrics as well. So this is really nice to compare the models.
Yeah, very, very interesting. I mean, this also shows another example how people are being innovative, and they found another market, I guess, because there's so many models now that you want to share, you want to start comparing them, and they provide you with a tool. So
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I guess it's time for let's say the main.
Well,
yeah, not the main, but yeah,
something more practical. So I know we noted that this is a live demo, but in the interest of time, since some of the provisioning process takes a while, I decided to pre-record this morning, and so we can fit it into the presentation. But what we're going to show you here is maybe just pause it for a second so I can get the introduction. So it's basically an Azure OpenAI instance, which is a hosted version of ChatGPT, to put it. I mean, it's not exactly true, but let's say this allows you to use ChatGPT in your organization without kind of the compliance issues that have using it through OpenAI. So what we see is a demo that Microsoft provides, and you can deploy it relatively easily in your environment. There are a few prerequisites, like first asking Microsoft to enable Azure OpenAI in your subscription. And I'm talking about kind of Azure terminology. Hopefully you understand that part. But you need to have a subscription that's enabled for Azure OpenAI. Some prerequisites on the machine itself, where you're going to deploy the code. From where you're going to deploy the code, it's a really simple GitHub page, and if we let me hit that play. It's basically just a UI that's running on an app service that connects to the OpenAI API, and the input is a bunch of PDFs that you can provide back to the service. I'm using the pre-built PDFs that are part of the demo, along with an additional document that I added that's completely has nothing to do with the other documents. And what I'm doing here is you need to have the Azure Developer CLI on your computer. You run the appropriate commands. There's an instruction within the GitHub page how you provision this. We pick out a region where we want to deploy and the subscription. As far as the regions goes, only a few regions are enabled for Azure OpenAI right now. East US, Europe, Western Europe, and these are the only two that have both ChatGPT 3.5 and the DaVinci model, which is a fine-tuned version of ChatGPT 3.5, which is needed for this demo. And you run the commands. I've skipped some of the kind of the waiting process to get all of the services provisioned, but as you can see, we have an app service plan, a storage account, cognitive services components like Azure OpenAI and Form Analyzer to scan the text in the documents and store them in a storage account, and use the Azure OpenAI to actually ask questions based on the data inside of the documents. The next part of the process, what we see on the screen, is the actual ingestion part, where we have some prerequisites being deployed, and then we start importing the documents. Now, the documents are not being imported as a whole documents. They are being divided as part of different pages, and each page gets scanned by the Form Analyzer, pretty much. So as you can see, this is how they being divided into pages.
Shall I ask how much time you needed in order to...
So there's some caveats with deploying the solution initially. You have to be aware of the OpenAI credits, how many you get with when they enable this on the subscription. And there's sometimes there are issues with kind of the local installation, because this GitHub page gets updated frequently enough. There's some PowerShell commands that are tied to this, but probably after the few first runs, you'll get the hang of it. You'll get through all of the issues with the imports, and eventually you will be able to import documents. The good thing is there's a separate PowerShell script or a Python, depending how you want to initiate it. If you're only having to add documents into the library, you can only run that instead of redeploying the solution every time, which also is also a valid way of doing it. It just will take longer because it has to assess if the necessary infrastructure is in place. And as you can see, this is how long it usually takes for each page to get separated and uploaded into the storage account. And depending how big the document is, the Form Analyzer could take to about a minute, maybe. It's quick enough. I mean, it's running directly on Azure, so it's quick enough. Now, this is a demo, so technically it only shows the capabilities. You shouldn't be doing this for a sort of a production level instance, or you could still do it. Technically, you can still do it. You can. I'll show you in a second how the web interface looks like of the demo app. You can manage some of the text and wording there, so you can come up with some of the same approach and using your own data. But if you really want to do it correctly, you would start from scratch. You would create your own application. You would provision your own resources. An app service works fine in this case, but you can go a step beyond. You can run this on a Kubernetes cluster with a microservice or something. It really depends on where you want to go. But as a simple demo, something that Microsoft provides out of the box, or sort of out of the box, it's a nice way to get a sense of what this can do, especially with your own custom data. Since you're running this in Azure, you don't have the compliance issues, so you can upload your own documents if you want, and run your Azure tenant. And let me pause this.
Actually, this demo is pretty. The demo provided by Microsoft is really, really important, because actually it helps a lot enterprises to get their hands dirty.
Yeah.
And even if it's not the appropriate production usage of the service, it's, as you said, it's provide you.
Yeah, and now it only supports PDFs. On the GitHub page, I saw a number of people trying to kind of hack it and enable it for other services, but and that's still valid. It's just, it will take you longer to do it instead of just starting directly building this process from scratch. There's another accelerator that will probably show, it's called an accelerator just because it's similar to this demo, but it provides more capabilities like importing data from existing Azure SQL databases. It supports tabular data like CSV files and unstructured data. So we'll probably be able to show this in some of the other sessions where, you know, this will have more effect, because right now PDFs is the only use case that can be done with this POC, but PDFs are, I would say, is one of the top 3 types of documents in enterprise. So it will still give you a very good sense of how this works. So once the PowerShell, the CLI completes, it will provide you with the link to the URL of the app service. You can technically go into the Azure portal and get the link from there from the app service, but it's also showing in the script itself. And what you end up with, is this simple web page. And in the web page, by default, they have added 3 prompts that you can use based on the built-in data. And this, the prompt engineering behind this demo is you are a healthcare service bot, which can help you provide information about your healthcare service plan, and also the employee benefits, sort of an internal corporate use case maybe. And the documents that are being uploaded as part of the process contain that information. I think there were about 6 or 7. What I added additionally is just a random document about the Azure AZ305 exam, which is the architect exam for the Microsoft Pico here. And I'm going to ask it a different question, not part of the demo, and see how that will work out. So if we resume the video. Yep, if we resume the video, I will click on the first prompt engineering, which is what is included in my Healthcare Plus plan. And you will get the answer back, you know, a comprehensive answer. You know, this answer has not been pre-built. You know, it's based on the actual prompt engineering. And there's a button for the, stop it here. There's a button that would actually lead you to the citation of the document, which means it will give you a preview of the actual page where this excerpt comes from. So it's really neat, especially if you have a huge library of documents and you want to use the ChatGPT model to provide you with a comprehensive answer based on that information. But once it does, you want to get a view of that actual data inside of the document. So they added this as part of the solution. So you click on the citation and it will take you there. You also have a button for the supporting content, which is the actual pages from the document, but in this form, and also the training process. What I've explained earlier, you can see prompt. It says assistant helps the company employees with their healthcare plan questions and questions about the employee handbook in a brief and sort of instruction to ChatGPT how it needs to present itself in front of the when it answers the different questions. Okay. So yeah, this is where I kind of highlight the whole process. And if we go back to the initial screen, there's another button called chat, which is not, this is more of a question and answer menu where you can ask a question without sort of a continuous conversation. It will work in a similar fashion. There was some default prompts added there. You would get a response. again with a citation to the actual reference in the document. And it's really neat. We've tested this out a couple of different ways and adding different documents, and it's really nice. And like I said, as part of the ingestion process and outside of the actual demo material, I've included an additional document for the AZ305, which is totally unrelated to the other documents. And I'm asking the question, can you tell me more about the AZ305, which is the name of the exam? And it will work in a similar way. So it will tell me, as you can see, the AZ is a design Microsoft Azure Infrastructure and Solutions exam, and will give me information as well as the kind of the references to the actual document. So we've tested this out with more than 100 different documents previously, and it's able to work very, very well based on the information. It works with manuals or even kind of bigger data. It takes a while if you have multiple pages that will get uploaded, but at the end of the day, it would eventually complete. This does run depending on how often it's being used, and during the ingestion process, this will run you through some credits in your Azure subscription. Of course, it's not free, but from what I saw, even during the extensive testing, we ended up with something like up to maybe $50, $100 in terms of credits.
It's pretty cheap, I would say, for what
And
value it's providing.
Yeah, for the value, and maybe when you have it a more targeted approach, this may not be that expensive. And things will get, I think Microsoft at some point will probably lower the cost of using the service. Right now, it's expensive for them just because of the hardware that's involved, and the number of data centers. Yeah, demand.
It's pretty economical.
So that's about the demo. I mean, next time we'll probably, or one of the next few sessions, we'll probably show something more kind of advanced in terms of the enterprise level solutions. But as you can see, even if you have not done anything with OpenAI, you can get yourself into the demo. You obviously have to have some prior experience in using Azure, but the starting is not that difficult from what I can see.
Yep, absolutely. So really hopes that you liked our first session. We appreciate your time spending with us. Most probably we'll have some pause during the summer, but starting from the winter, we'll resume
From the autumn.
For the autumn, sorry. We'll resume our sessions, and you can expect some really nice demos as we discussed. So we already got some pretty good access to private preview Copilot, and looking forward to get our hands dirty with security Copilot as well. As you know, that one of our main focus, apart from cloud and AI, is security as well. So we promise that you'll see a lot.
Yeah,
starting from the autumn, and hopefully we'll try to organize something where we can meet each other in person this year. Oh yeah, thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Have a nice time learning the AI stuff. Bye.
Thank you guys.